So people are also talking about including YAML for asynchronous requests, but let's actually ignore it for now. Okay. So AJAX is asynchronous JavaScript and data format. A data format could be XML, text, HTML, or JSON. Okay. Now, before we get to AJAX, though, we'll have to understand what exactly what is a what is the problem. Okay, with existing websites. Okay, see, these are synchronous websites. Okay, the page, I refresh the page. Okay, at that point there is a request that's going out. Okay, and here, okay, it says, so I mean the data is loaded on the page at a time, and the page load doesn't complete, okay, until the whole page is loaded. Okay, now there are cases where, okay, so look at this weather application alone. Okay, okay, so I'll actually load it again. Okay, the first thing to take a look at probably would be the markets application. Okay, this was an independent call. Okay, so let's forget about it, but here there is a weather widget. Okay, widget or a control where we are allowed to modify the location. Okay, I would say 77082. At that point, nothing on the page changed, everything was as is, but this part alone changed. Now let's actually change something else. So let's say 78757. Okay, now again keep an eye on if anything changes anywhere. Okay, nothing changed. Okay, wow. So it's beautiful weather in Texas, right? So you actually have, yeah, whatever weather it was in Houston and 88 in Austin. The main point here to take away is nothing on the page changed except for parts of the page. Okay, but if I actually want to modify this, okay, or if I actually want to what is it, load this video as an example, okay, I'll have to go to a different page. Okay, which means that everything on this page has to be somehow modified. Okay, long story short, this is a synchronous request. When a page is loaded, okay, it is a synchronous request. Once the page loads, if there are parts of the page that have to be reloaded, okay, at that point, rather than loading the whole page, we would asynchronously load just that part. Now let's actually understand what exactly is asynchronous. Okay, so here, do you mean we are dealing with data which needs to change after certain time? See, certain time is a use case, on an event is another use case. Okay, what I've done is, this one is not for a certain time. Okay, this one is actually on a user event. The user event is, actually I'm clicking edit. Okay, the second user event is going to be 77082. The second user event is going to be hitting the go button. Once I hit go button, the data changes here. Okay, so user event is one, user action is one. The second thing is going to be after a certain time, so like a time interval. Okay, so these are the two cases. So yeah, so these are the two cases. Now what did I do? Yeah, so even before we get to those use cases, let's actually look at what exactly is synchronous. Okay, so synchronous request would be a single line request. Okay, so everything has to be done in one line. Okay, and after that HTML would be what is it, HTML, JavaScript, obviously CSS and images would be loaded at once. Okay, now for an asynchronous request, okay, the good thing about an asynchronous request is you can send one request here, okay, one request here, okay, and then one request here, okay, and then you'll actually be tying something called as a callback, okay, or if you all have actually worked with any object oriented programming language, you all might have heard of something called as a listener, okay. So in this case what we would say is get me weather, okay, get me mail information, or just say get me my top 4 emails, okay, and then get me um, I don't know, get me the price of houses, okay, in a certain location, okay, and then parallel to it would be a synchronous request which would say load the rest of the page, okay. So here where we are doing only one thing at a time, here we actually are doing 4 things at a time. So another way of uh, another way of looking at it is we are working on a we are working on loading something, okay, with 4 different processes, okay, but keep in mind that these are not computer these are not what is it, these are not processor or like CPU's processes, okay, these are asynchronous processes and these are running on the server machine technically, okay. They take a request, accept the request and push the data out, that's it, that's all that they do, okay. So it is up to the browser to load the data, okay. So keep in mind that when we want parallel functionality to be loaded without any disturbance, we would use asynchronous request, okay. So now before we go into any uh, any other information, okay, let's actually take a look at a mock example, okay. So once you all look at this mock example, you all would understand what exactly is the whole deal about this thing, okay. In this one I'm creating a basic HTML page, okay, nothing complex. Say head body body, okay. So in the head I'll actually script, the type is equal to text slash javascript script, okay. Now yeah, so now let's actually say let's actually think about it, yeah, good. So now let's actually save this and move this to a PHP page. Let's dot PHP. Oh, you know what? I don't want to confuse you all. Let's actually switch it back to HTML. Okay. So let's actually stick with HTML to avoid any confusion. Form method is equal to yeah. So since it's get, I'll be using get. It's not an issue. let's say index.html, or we could even say hash. So in the form, let's actually have input type text, name is equal to, so whatever, and value, so it technically shouldn't have value, right? Now the next thing is going to be, let's actually add a break, line break, and let's give in a submit. Okay, type submit, type is equal, name is equal to submit, value is equal to submit. Okay, now let's actually see what happens here, and just to be on the safe side, it's not required, but just to be on the safe side. Now this has to be in the training.com slash ajax slash index.html. Okay, now it's a basic form, nothing fancy. I'll say hello. Okay, then I'll say submit. Okay, so you all see that I'm actually passing data over to the same file. Okay, I'm saying I'm sending some data over to the same file. Okay, now let's actually take it one step forward. So this was the client side implementation of a form. Now let's actually take it to the next step, which we've already seen, where we would send data to the server. cdvar www training ajax. This one would be index.php, or it actually can be anything.php, but I'm just choosing it to be index.php. So let's actually print out $_get. Okay, in here, rather than saying action, now we'll have to give the file name or the script name where the data will be posted to. Okay, now let's actually go in here and let's refresh the page so that the form is loaded. At that point, we'll have to verify that the form is being posted to index.php. Now again, let's actually say okay. At that point, we should actually get the data sent over to the server. But one thing that we'll have to verify here, okay, is the file has changed, right? Because this was index.html. When I click a button, okay, I'm actually reloading a whole new page, okay, which is not a which probably is a is not a required. I won't say required. How do I put it? Uh, an unexpected behavior. Okay, it's not the, it's probably not like the good behavior for every action. So at this point, we'll have to come up with a method, okay, where, okay, or let's actually do this. Let's actually perform some kind of processing. Let's say if, let's actually rename it to name so that we really look at what exactly is the purpose of it. So we'll say $_get name. Okay, if $_get name is John, okay, say echo John, okay, or let's actually say hello John, else echo say else if, Oh, by the way, so kind of an off-topic question, but are you all like, did you all at least like start about or like thinking about your resumes?
Honestly, no.
Okay,
I should.
yeah. Anybody
Because I
else?
have my original resume floating in the market already, so I don't know what to do about this.
That wouldn't be a problem.
Hmm.
What does your original resume have, by the way? Does it have any other programming language?
Yeah, a mild experience with Java, and I'm a
Oh,
BSS,
really?
right? Business Systems Analyst. So,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the
so that.
reason that I ask is there was actually a person who came for an interview, and
Hmm.
I was interviewing that person, and that person mentioned that they have what is it? Experience of Java and PHP. So I actually gave that person the same script and asked them when would it fail in Java.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, just be careful if you're actually putting any other languages. Be sure that you all understand the differences.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
just a food for thought. Can anybody tell me when would it fail if I do that, say in C sharp or Java or Objective C for that matter?
Well,
Yeah, the point at which it will fail is else. With PHP is not very consider like it doesn't give a damn about what kind of code we write because if it breaks. But with Java and C sharp, if we give a if then else if, and if we do not mention an else, it'll actually break because both of them are object oriented programs, so they would break. But yeah, for Munjal and Nirajan, did you all start working on resumes? And the main question is, would you all be putting any other languages into that resume? Any other programming language? No, I was going to ask you, how about the resumes or how about the other language? Yeah, I mean, if it is about the resumes, yeah, sure, I can help you out. But make sure that you all only put one language. Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you all do not know other languages, then that's perfect. But it is, it
half
may,
and half is the problem always. If I just know half of something and half of something else.
yeah. I mean, sometimes. I mean, if it all depends on how the interview goes. To be honest. Yeah, but again, Munjal, one thing to keep in mind is if you do not know any of these languages, I mean, say C, C++, Java, if you do not know them well, avoid them on your resume because sometimes people look at stuff and kind of start asking you questions. And the only reason that people would ask a question is to understand how much do you know that is on your resume. Because if something is on your resume and understood that, you'll know it. So that is the only reason why people would ask you. So yeah, keep in mind if there are any languages that you all know, make sure that you all at least brush up if you put them on your resume. Okay. So now going back to the original program. So okay, all this would does is it would actually take an input. Okay, and we'll have to be careful that the names would either be John or Jane. Okay, and let's be good programmers and let's actually add an else. Let's say hello other person. I don't know. So now let's actually see how would we okay use this form to print out a basic message. Okay, once we do this, the next step is going to be loading this message asynchronously. We wouldn't actually do a page load. Okay, so let's quickly go back in here. Let's refresh it so that the DOM is loaded. Okay, now we'll say hello John, or we'll just say John. At that point, the script would say that if it is John, it would print hello John, right? And since you are already here, we can actually use the URL, okay, for form submission. Say hello Jane, or I'll say hello Kent. Would say hello other person. If I would say as an example Bruce, okay, it would still say hello other person. Okay, now rather than refreshing the whole page every time, okay, so that is the whole deal, right? Rather than refreshing the whole page every time, let's actually print uh, the hello message somewhere on the page. Okay, so let's actually add a div, okay, like a div element. Okay, here we'll say user message. Okay, and since we do not want this div to show up, I mean it can actually show up, but since we don't want this to be showing up, let's say style is equal to display none. Okay, what that does is it is not going to take any physical space on the page. Okay, so let's actually try that out. I mean, so here the DOM remains same, but if I actually remove this, since it's a block element, I'm hoping that it would push the form to the next line. Okay, interesting, it did not do that. Let's actually see. So it did load the data. So if I actually edit it, if I'll say no, I'm writing the wrong thing. Okay, so edit. So at that point it actually pushes down. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so now man, now now what we'll do is we'll actually say that um, on click of this button, okay, the name is submit and the ID is also submit. Okay, okay, the ID will also submit. What we'll do is we'll actually make a like an asynchronous call. Okay, so asynchronous call, like it says, it is asynchronous JavaScript and a data format, say XML. The first thing that we would need is to make an asynchronous call, we would need JavaScript. Okay, and with the with jQuery becoming so popular, okay, we can actually use jQuery library to make that call. And we actually covered jQuery, right? Did we cover jQuery? Did we cover jQuery? Do you all remember jQuery?
I kind of remember covering jQuery, but how extensively, I don't know. I have to refresh.
Hmm. Okay.
But I think we did it in a class or two. You
Okay.
did mention jQuery before.
Nice. So let's actually add that here. Yeah, if anything doesn't look nice, and if anything feels like Greek or Latin, let me know, we can revisit it. So can anybody, just like a quick refresher, tell me how can I bind a click event to a button? No volunteers? Okay. So the first thing that you'll have to do is obviously to verify that the document is ready. Okay, the way we would do that, document here is to make sure that the page has loaded. Okay, we have to make sure that the page and HTML have loaded. Now the next question is, how would we bind a click event, okay, to an element? Okay, the way we would find an element is either by the ID or by the name or by the class. Okay, if we have an ID, we would use a hash to get the element. Once we get the element, we'll actually use the click handler, or like the click event, I'm sorry, to bind an event or bind a callback. Okay, so what we would do here is, so let's actually alert and verify that we are in the click handler. Okay, at this point, so let's actually refresh it. And at this point, this is a form, fair enough, we can actually get rid of that form, and this one is of type submit. Okay, now when I click submit, I did not get an alert. Nice. um, ah, okay, so I shouldn't close it here, because if I do, at that point I will not be able to close it here. Okay, because what this means is I actually am wrapping a callback, okay, into this function. Okay, what this does is it would actually wait for the submit button to be retrieved, and then it would actually wait for the button to be clicked before the callback is executed. Okay, so now let's actually refresh again after that change and see if that makes a difference. Perfect. At that point, it is actually like alerting some data in a pop-up, and it says click handler. Nice. Now let's actually do the Ajax part. Okay, so before that, let's actually get rid of the form. Okay, so now since we are in the submit handler, okay. Oh, even before we get to the Ajax call, we'll have to get the name. Okay, so can anybody tell me how can I get the value? I mean, how can I get John out of the text box? Okay, here if I have to, if I want to get the value of this text box, what is a good way to get the value out of the text box with jQuery? And to make it simple, I'll actually put in an ID. Okay, so just like the submit button, we'll use username. Okay, I guess we can actually do val. Okay, okay, that would extract the name from the username. Okay, then we'll actually do the original AJAX call. Okay, and I do not want you all to uh, look at have message. Yeah, that is right. Okay, so I do not want you all to look at what exactly is going on here. Okay, I only want you all to understand the process. We'll go through the syntax at a later point, but I only want you all to understand the process as to what exactly is happening here. Okay, the first thing the first thing that we'll do, I guess, would be a URL. The URL is going to, let's actually follow the JSON string, and the URL is going to be index.php. Okay, because this is index.php, right? And then
Sorry, can you back up a little? I missed a little part.
to what part?
The when you started adding Ajax.
Yeah, so what I was saying was, do not worry about Ajax. Okay, do not worry about any syntaxes or any kind of semantics that you see in here. Only focus on the process. Okay, do not even look at, say, the URL or anything. Okay, I mean, take a look at the URL, obviously, because the URL is the file, the PHP file that we are making a call to. The next thing would be data. Okay, the data is going to be name. Okay, and the value of name from here. Okay, and if I remember correctly, Ajax actually has a callback done. Okay, which would actually and I guess this one takes a parameter. So let's do this. So let's actually what is it, print the data onto the page and see what exactly happens here. Okay, again, keep in mind, I do not want you all to understand or like even focus on what exactly is the syntax here. Only focus on what exactly is the syntax carrying. The syntax carries a URL. Okay, just like a form, the syntax is carrying a parameter called or a property called data. Okay, all that data does is handle this part. Okay, it is actually taking this data to the other side. Okay, and then what we are doing is, once the submit button is clicked and the data is sent to the server side, it is just printing the data, which is already been which was the same process with a synchronous request. Okay, so now let's actually remove this trash and refresh the page. Okay, see, the first good thing is that we do not have any errors here. Now let's put in John. Keep in mind, when I clicked the button earlier, the page refreshed and went to, see again, why is this whatever thing coming? Okay, so let me remove this and reload the page. So I'm seeing John. Okay, so the last time when I clicked submit, the page was redirected to index.php and a message was printed. Now let's see what happens here when I click it. At this point, hello John is printed here in the uh, in the console window, and the page is still index.html. Okay, again, so let's actually see that again. So let's refresh the page. So nothing is here. Okay, and pay close attention to this part, because if the page changes, okay, if the page changes, what happens is the whole I mean, at least this part would refresh. Now I'll put in Jane, I'll submit the page, nothing changed on the page. Okay, it is saying hello Jane. Okay, now the question is, how did we, what exactly happened? I mean, like, right, because something happened, that's for sure. The big thing here is we made an asynchronous request, okay, which is not visible to anybody. The easiest way to see what exactly has happened here is probably by going to the network tab. Okay, in the network tab, let's go to XHR. XHR is XML HTTP request object. I'll actually be talking about this in the next session. Okay, so I mean, again, keep in mind XHR is XML HTTP request. Okay, the XML HTTP request object is making a request to index.php, and it is saying that the name is Jane. Okay, it is taking Jane from the input box. Okay, and it is actually building the query string from this data property. Okay, and then what it does is when the request hits the server, okay, when a handshake is made between the client and server, and the last step being that the server has processed the information and it is sending it back, the HTTP status is 200. We have discussed about this part. Remember that when a successful request is made, we'll actually get a status of 200. At that point, okay, at that point, you would actually be hitting this done callback. Okay, so in the done callback, what we are doing is whenever this done callback is triggered, any data that is coming in from the response from the server would be fed into this function. Okay, once we are in the function, we are using the data. Okay, now let's actually, and just to be on the safe side so that you do not get confused, I'll actually call it response, just so that you all are not confused between this data and data. They are different. So this is the response that is coming in from the server. Okay, now let's actually print the response out again. Response. Okay, so let's refresh the page. Nothing should change. Okay, nothing will actually change here. I'll just say Jane and hello Jane. Okay, I would say whatever. At that point, I would say hello other person. Okay, the other thing to notice is when I actually printed hello Jane, there was one request here. Then when I printed hello other, when I clicked submit for whatever, it actually said hello other person. And it has to be understood that there are two distinct URLs here. The first one has a parameter, has a query string with name is equal to Jane. The second one has a query string with name is equal to whatever. Okay, so there are two distinct things. The last thing, okay, the last part of this has to be how do we use this data. Okay, how can we use this data? The simple way that would use this data is by accessing DOM again. Okay, DOM is the document object model, and the way we would access it is via the user. I mean, via the ID. So user message. Okay, dot HTML, or we could just say text. Okay, and we would just say response. Okay, because text, remember, is an overloaded function. One function, I mean, if the function doesn't have any parameters, it would return the data, but if it has any parameters, it would actually take the parameters and set the data. Okay, now let's actually go back, refresh the page again so that the newest JavaScript loads, and at this point let's say submit. See, at this point it says hello other person. Now I'm saying hello Jane. Okay, it will say hello Jane. Okay, and see, everything is asynchronous, the page is not refreshing. So since you have 10 more minutes, let's actually see how is this important, or how would this help. So let's say lorem ipsum. So let me get some lorem ipsum text. Lorem ipsum Come on. So this is good enough. So now let's actually go in here. So let's actually put it in a paragraph tag. Yep. Okay. Now let's actually go back and refresh the page. See, there's a lot of lorem nonsense on the page. Okay. Assume that. Okay. Just assume that this is uh, a full-fledged website. Okay. And this is the main page. Okay. And this is one of those what is it? Um, fancy weather applications. Uh, yeah. See, one of these fancy. Where is it? Yeah, one of these fancy weather applications on our web page. At that point, when we click this and when we change this to my current location, okay, it would actually say it is 71. That's not bad. Okay, so I mean the takeaway has to be that nothing changed on the web page, right? Now let's actually try and see if our asynchronous call is going through fine. Okay, at this point nothing would change. See, everything remained as it is, the page did not refresh, and we actually are printing data onto the web page. Okay, now the question has to be, how did we do that? Okay, we'll go in here into the network tab, we'll go into the XHR tab, and then we'll actually click on this link. Okay, and just for now, let's actually take a look at the response. Okay, the response here is hello John. Okay, and that is coming in from index.php. Okay, because if we actually take this URL, okay, and if we actually print it here, that is all that it would say. Okay, it's nothing complex or it's nothing different. Okay, how much time do I have? Okay, 9 minutes. No problem. Okay, or if I say whatever, see, nothing would be different. And here, since it's not an asynchronous request, it wouldn't show up in the XHR tab. It would show up in the all tab. The reason for that is it is synchronous. It's not asynchronous. And if you all want to verify that it is being made from a local desktop, we can also take a look at the remote IP address. Okay, I mean to where the request is being made. Okay, so the server is on 127.0.0.1 and the port is 80, right? Now, okay, so that's why if we actually put in something like that, it would give us the else condition, which is hello other person. Okay, now let me ask you all, if you all, I mean, rather than asking if there are any questions, I'll ask you all if you all have understood the reason why we should use asynchronous requests.
It's actually overwhelming.
Okay,
I'll listen to this class once again today and then let you know.
okay, I mean, but even before like
Yeah, I got the basic concept of it, but then yeah,
awesome, yeah,
there are
I mean
many
the
things that I didn't understand.
okay, yeah, the whole aim of this session is just to introduce you all to Ajax. The Ajax session would at least take a little time, okay, before it completes. Okay, so it is not as if this is ending here. Okay, this is just like a basic introductory session, because the next thing is going to be what is it, for you all to understand the syntax here, okay, as to what just happened, because what exactly is $.ajax, right? Are there any are there any other ways of making Ajax requests and all this fun stuff? We'll actually go through them, but the main concept is, be it this form or be it this page, or be it something like this, okay, cnn.com. Okay, it is very important for us to understand why we would need Ajax. Okay, so that is the only aim of this session. Okay, guys.
Okay. One quick question, Sai.
Yeah.
When you said document ready, we did that before to see when you're loading an external, uh, like you loaded jQuery from library from somewhere else, right?
Okay.
We did that previously to actually see if some other library loaded before we actually used the functionality. Is that the reason you did that here today, or you just binded the click with the action?
Okay. So the first thing to understand is when we say dollar, okay, dollar in itself is jQuery. Okay. So we need not verify if jQuery has loaded if we are already using the dollar. Okay.
Okay.
What we are checking is we are checking if the document has loaded. Okay. The next question would be what exactly is a document? Document is this part. Okay. We are checking if this part has already loaded completely because we are actually making reference to an HTML element, right? So we'll have to make sure that the HTML element exists before we bind something. So all that we do with document ready is to make sure that the HTML body has loaded. If the HTML body has loaded, we can actually go ahead. See, the other way of doing this is to take this, okay, and put it in the footer, as in put it after the body. Even that would work.
Okay.
Yeah, but I
So
mean,
previously we did that document ready line you did and some other form to see if an external library is loaded. So it's just a little confused.
an external library. Um,
We did that previously if you remember the document ready thing.
okay, so let's actually. I mean, do you have that script? I mean, like, or because I don't think we can actually check if a library has loaded via the script because I mean the only reason I say that is a library has to be a file. Okay, with JavaScript we cannot actually verify if a file has loaded.
No, no, no. If the file is loaded, then go ahead. Otherwise, just wait on it or print error or something like that. We did that before. I remember it. I'll pull that out and email you.
Okay, yeah, let's actually do that. Yeah, because but in this case or in any case, if we are actually checking document not ready, okay, document is this part. Okay, document is this. Yeah, and we are making sure that the document is loaded, which means that I mean all the HTML elements in the document have loaded. At that point, we can actually assume, safely assume that the submit button is loaded, to which we are actually
Okay.
binding the click event.
Okay.
Yeah. So Munjal and Nirajan, are you all good with the concept of asynchronous requests? Okay, yes, okay, perfect, awesome. So the next session will be on Saturday. It will be at 1 p.m. EST. Okay, of course, Prashant would actually email you all a reminder, but keep in mind that the next session is at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Okay, and on Saturday we'll actually be revisiting this program and understanding what exactly does this piece of code mean. In the meantime, if you all have any questions with databases or jQuery, let me know. If you all need a brush up, like make sure that you go through your jQuery tutorials. And if you all still have any questions, let me know on Saturday, and we can go over those questions. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
All right. See you all on Saturday.